Hey everyone, this is Olay from Laddering Your Success, and you're listening to the LYS Podcast.
Happy Sunday, everyone. How you doing? And we are back at it again. LYS Online Student Mentoring. Come and get it. It's free and it's awesome. I'm doing great. It's a little cold. It's not that bad though. I ended up going to the W Kitchen yesterday, and we were talking about it on the way. And the guy at the register was like, man, it's cold. It's cold out there, man. It's windy. I don't know how you making it. I said, it's not that bad. I mean, I've been here my whole life. Like you were here last year. We saw, one of the things called a snowvid, you seen that. He was like, nah, this bad. I was like, man, relax. This is nothing. This is light work, man. It's okay.
It's interesting because W Kitchen, they got a check for me too yesterday. They
get a check for everybody.
But this is the thing that be bothering me, man. It's like how they change stuff up. Restaurants just go and they raise the prices and reduce how much food you're getting. Because W Kitchen, they used to give you a huge plate for like $7, but that's okay. That's okay.
But it's crazy. I noticed so many people are taking like these principles. And I noticed it's like a lot from like Chick-fil-A. They're taking a lot of principles that like companies like Chick-fil-A really just operate by. And they're using it and they're just taking, good food, decent good food with those principles. Yeah. And, they're sustaining, because when you think about it, I mean, there's plenty of other restaurants around, but ours, they're available, more open than not. They're available more often than the others. The food is good. And like, they're just nice, they don't really, go out of the, they don't do anything outside of the norm as far as like, we're not gonna do this. It's just straight, what do you want? What do you need? If it's after a certain time, you got to give them your card number, and it's good to go. So it's just crazy to see how people take those patterns and they use it to build sustainability. That's pretty cool. Really quickly, I got a question for you, Festus. Let me run and start that real quick.
Oh,
go ahead. Sorry.
I think this is an interesting point on using principles for borrowing other people's principles, right? Because, we always talk about being character, values, principles, right? And so it's interesting, when do you borrow other people's principles so you're no longer you? Because I know we're about to get into vision and a system, and it's like, okay, certain principles can just create a system, right? Mm-hmm. It's like that. And it's just like Christianity. If you look at it biblically, it used to be called the way, right? And they just talked about, my buddy fell down. Come on, buddy. Sorry about that. Guys, this is Zach's going to mama. He was playing, he was trying to climb in the pantry and steal some snacks. So he learned the lesson. But anyway, when you take principles and you consistently apply them over time, you can create a system, which makes things a lot easier, right? But then at the same time, are you no longer yourself if you're applying other people's principles? I think that's an interesting question, but I think it's kind of on topic too. So we'll get into it. We'll definitely get into it.
Definitely. All right, so Festus, I got a quick question for you here. What were you doing around this time back in 2002? I only ask because it kind of has a little to do with what we're going to be talking about. But back in 2002, what were you doing right around this time? What music were you listening to? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so sorry about the kiddos, guys. Let me see if I can plug in. So 2002, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So 2002, I was still in high school, and that would have been my sophomore year. And so probably listening to Chingy, It's a Hotel Party. Probably a little bit of Laffy Taffy. I don't think Laffy Taffy, Candy Girl, okay, was out at that time. So a little bit of that. And then what else? I don't know. That's it. I was actually going through a hard time because I was a little after my mom's loss in my freshman year. So I think I was just really trying to struggle to figure out who I am and okay, I got to figure like life out at that time. So yeah, 2002.
No, absolutely. So I went out and I looked and I found some things. I don't know if you remember, an asteroid the size of a football field missed the Earth by only 75,000 miles. You remember those coal miners that were rescued when they were trapped for 77 hours?
Was it Chile or Argentina or something like that?
No, that was here. That was in Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, and this is right around the time when Arnold Schwarzenegger became governor. Because the governor, Gray Davis, announced the state faced a record budget deficit of $35 billion. And so I think they started that whole recall thing. And so he was like, I think he was removed, and then somehow Arnold Schwarzenegger became the governor of California. So get this, back in the year 2002, the average web surfer spent 46 minutes a day online. AOL was the most popular website, and favorite web searches included Spider-Man, Shakira, and Star Wars. It's actually not that far off. People are still searching Spider-Man and Star Wars. It took an average of 12 and a half minutes to download a song on a 56K modem. So that's what I think I was doing a lot of at that time. I think I was doing I was on Kazaa and LimeWire. Oh, you're muted. Yeah, you're muted. Oh, okay. Sorry. So I downloaded a lot of songs on LimeWire and Kazaa and BearShare. I downloaded a lot of those songs, and saw a meme about how kids used to just download songs and just like download viruses and just mess up their computers. I remember about once every 6 months, I think our computer had an issue, so we had to have like one of those antivirus things on the computer, one of those free ones, because I was always trying to download some new Swisher House or some new chopped and screwed music. That's a Houston thing, so don't mind me. Don't worry about that. All right. So let me go back quickly to my presentation here. So part of the reason why I wanted to talk about 2002 is 20 years ago, there was a movie that came out that was very popular called The Matrix. And they recently just brought out another version of that movie. I think it's Matrix Resurrections or something like that. And so I just thought that'd be a really cool thing to talk about because it's in the LYS book, when we talk about the system. And of course, we're still talking along the lines of vision. And so we're still talking along the lines of vision, and how does the system help you understand, how you got here, and how do all of those things and understanding of those things help you figure out your vision? Okay. So let's take a look here. All right. So now we're on to the matrix, or we mean the system, right? We're talking about the system. All of life is spent under authority. Okay. Authority is the power to influence. And this is a pretty popular thing, a wide view, a wide understanding of what you're going through. Okay. Here's a quick question. Have you ever thought about why you are taught what you're being taught? You got to remember, this world operates on a system. Okay. As the economy becomes more globalized, and just so you know, this book, the LYS book, was written in 2016. From 2016 to now, 6 years later, the world has, I don't know if it's exponential, but it's grown a substantial amount in those 6 years, right? We are so much more connected, and so much more connected than we are now than we were in 2016. You're going to benefit from pervasive principles or truths. Some call it by varying names, all right? So depending on your upbringing or your culture, some Asian philosophies, they call it yin and yang. Southern Buddhists call it karma, but the simplest way to put it is good versus evil. Okay, good versus evil. We as people have the capacity to do both. We can do both of those things, but it isn't really about what we do as much as who we are and what team we are on. Now, there are actions that are completely negative, such as cheating, lying, and murder. Very rarely would anyone say that any of these are good things. Then there are actions that are positive, such as giving charitably, feeding the less fortunate, and working hard. We like to think that it's cut and dry, but the truth is, it's not. What about when a policeman kills a criminal? What if the criminal was trying to help his dying son, right? Criminal has a dying son. He's trying to do whatever he can to help his dying son. The policeman, just sees a criminal and he has a job to do. He or she has a job to do. That's tough. We say that the killing of the man is justified because of his bad deeds and the police officer's right to enforce the law. And you got to think about it. There are so many instances of questionable situations that happen, right? And that's actually a really good point to learn now if you're young, is to always wait until you have both sides of a story. Make sure you understand the full perspective. Make sure you get the whole story before you go out and state an opinion. Okay. I think, if you watch TV and you watch like the news or you watch people in interviews, a lot of people feel compelled to answer a question when they're asked a question. I rarely see, or I can't, I've seen it maybe 3 or 4 times. Unfortunately, I think in all of my years of watching interviews that I can remember, where someone was asked a question and they either said, I'm not going to answer because I don't know all the facts, or I'm ignorant on this matter. I would love to answer it. I would like to go and study on it and come back and answer. And I feel like to save face, we have to say something. You ain't got to say nothing. You really don't have to say anything, right? I think there's so much courage. I think there's so much wisdom in saying, I'm ignorant on that. I don't really know much on that. I've been meaning to study on it, but my time has been, filled with other things. But I would love to make some time to study that and talk about that with you. There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So keep that in mind, okay? So we're talking about the police officer killed the criminal with the dying son, right? What about the man's son who will never see his father again? Is one life worth many? Are many lives worth one? The answer lies in the system. The Greeks called it the cosmos with a K. You may have seen it spelled cosmos. They use this word to describe the universe, mankind, or all living beings. In short, the created order, right? The way that things were created, the order that it was placed in, the levels to the way that we operate, okay?
And it's really interesting that you say that, because, the thing is, there is an intentional created order. Sometimes you'd also hear this if you're doing natural sciences, called the natural order, right? And then you break it down into biospheres and ecosystems and different types of things like that. And so you have a big set of overlapping systems. And you have to really sit down to ask yourself, what system is at play? What system's at work here, right? Because if they're overlapping and there's certain principles from a certain system that are at work or at play, you have to really be able to differentiate that.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things, Festus, and this is why I love talking with Festus. We can literally go for hours on end just talking and discussing the natural order, right? The cosmos, right? And things that we deal with in our world. It's so amazing because the older I get, the more I have an understanding of problems that we're dealing with now and how they arise and where they come from. And you see a lot of people get pent up, right? Lots of pent up aggression. We as people, we can feel those things, right? I mean, if you're a student out there and you find yourself, when people are hurting before they may even know, or when people are about to get upset, or you just have a really strong feeling and understanding for people, you can feel that. And we can feel that kind of as a society, right? There's a lot of pent up frustration, anger. And I hate to say it's this simple, but I think one of the things that people aren't doing is we are not having a true understanding. We don't have a true understanding of how these things arise, of where these issues come from, right? A lot of things, all you have to do is kind of follow the tracks, right? I'll give you an example, great example. I don't have one here, but when we were in high school, we had to use headphones. I know you young people now, you can just put some wireless buds in and you're good to go. But once upon a time, there was a wire attached to those buds. I'm
talking about these right here.
Let me stop. Let me make sure I can see it so I can.
You're talking about these.
Oh man, yes, sir. Taking me back to Radio Shack.
He said the radio.
Sir.
Oh man, the Radio Shack.
Yes, sir. So, you had to untangle them. Now, a lot of times, you could get really mad and just, but I know for me, I would have to tell myself to calm down, and I would just follow, where that knot is, pull that knot under, pull that knot out, pull it under, follow that line, right? Follow that line till it gets to the end, right? The same way you kind of pull that knot apart and found that origin spot, so to speak, is what a lot of us have got to do. And folks, it's so important for you as young people. I'm gonna tell you why. You are the future, okay? You are future lawyers, engineers, contractors, statesmen, councilmen and women, senators, presidents, lawyers, all of those things. You have to have a very strong understanding of how we've got to where we are. One of the things I always tell my students is one of the most beautiful and important reasons that we teach history is for you as a person to have an understanding of where you come from, right? An understanding of why you are where you are right now in the present, and a way to sort of guide yourself going into the future. It also works for when you think about problems and situations that happened in the past, right? How they dealt with them, either for the good or for the bad, how they impact you right now in the present, and what lessons did you learn from those things that happened in the past that are affecting you now that you can possibly change for a brighter tomorrow?
Talking that talk there, Olay.
It's not just, for sure, it's not just boring classwork. All right, and I want you to understand that your teachers are trying to really help you understand and see that there is a reason why the things that have happened, right? It could be because of hatred for a certain group of people, and a hatred or misunderstandings or disagreements about land or about property, right? It could lead from ethnic issues, language issues, so many different things, right? Just having an understanding of those things and how you got to where you are now, right? Because you got to remember, one of the first things we talk about is migration. To migrate, to move, right? People were moving for what? People were hungry. They needed food, right? It was one of the first things we realized. Oh, just imagine, there's no McDonald's, Wendy's, Panera Bread, there's nothing.
Not Panera Bread.
Not Panera Bread. There's no W Kitchen. And you've got to, and by that time we had not figured out that we could take seeds, plant them, and grow crops. So if you see a little baby pig running around, that baby pig looking mighty fine because you know how to make some fire. And if you find an area that's got a lot of pigs, guess where you're going? Hey, pack up your stuff. We're going over where the pigs are. That's where we're going, right? So really want you all to understand the importance of those things, how those things play a part in your life, in our lives, okay? So talked about the created order. The idea is that we all belong to each other, okay? And that without others, we cannot live. Festus, I don't know if you've seen this, but I keep having this reoccurring thought in my head. I have accepted the fact that we are moving more and more to a completely digital society. If I want to get food, I don't even have to walk out of my door. Almost anything I want that I can comprehend that's out there, I can go to my phone or a computer and I can have it delivered to me without without interacting with another human.
That's an interesting thing, because especially growing up, we've seen these things in movies and we thought this is like the Jetsons. This is never going to happen. Yeah. But then we start growing up, and this is the really interesting part. And I think this is the really interesting part as it comes to understanding where you're at in a system. Is the same time we were growing up thinking that was the Jetsons and that was something that was just so far away, there were people our age who were making these things.
Yeah.
And I distinctly remember multiple teachers growing up talking about you're never going to have a calculator on you at all times, so you need to do the math in your head, all these different types of things. And it's like, you're right. I don't just have a calculator. I got a camera, I got a tape recorder, I got a phone, I got access to the internet. And why is this important? Why is this significant? Because somebody else's view of the system projected upon you can send you in a different direction. And so this is why it's so important that even though we have a certain degree of reliance on other people, we look at these things for ourselves, especially as students, especially as learners. And that's why we encourage people to be students of life, not just students in the classroom, right? Is to understand the systems, and you see those things at play. So yeah, man, it's really interesting now. You got the DoorDash, and you got the Chick-fil-A app, man. It's interesting. Sometimes I'll be over there in the hospital. I order my Chick-fil-A app. They send me a text message, your food's downstairs, and I gotta say, I do want to see who gave my food though, because if they looking crazy, then I'm gonna eat that. Yeah. But it also says a lot to our levels of trust, right?
Absolutely.
We trust things differently now. It's like I wouldn't in the past just sit up and let somebody who I don't know bring me food. Now it's like, right? And so these are really interesting things, really interesting.
Absolutely. It's so funny you mentioned that about the teachers. I tell my students, we go over math, and it's 5th grade math, right? So, a lot of the kids are like, I got a cell phone for this, but it's understanding. One of the first questions I say is, well, what are you going to do if your phone dies? What are you going to do if you don't have a phone on and you're left alone and you don't have no technology? And I know a lot of them are like, they were born with it. So for them, it's like, that's not going to happen. It's always going to be there. But just also understanding the logic, right? The problem solving techniques and building that problem solving muscle, right? That helps you solve those problems. Because it's completely different. You're right, Festus. In high school, we never really had to worry about a teacher. A teacher could easily have told us like, oh, you'll never have, there's never going to be a calculator on your. I remember I used to go to the library, and on my old Nokia, I already had it modded to where with the lights, I put custom lights in it and stuff. It had a Superman logo on the back, and I had to enter in the composer for my 2 ringtones. One was Nas, Got Yourself a Gun, and the other one was
This Morning. Got yourself a gun. Yeah, BK.
I was like, whoever did that was a name. They're a genius anyway on their own. But I can't remember that. I think it was an Ashanti song or something. But I had to go in and do that. You know what I mean? So it's just funny to think about how far we've come, man. So here's the big question. Big question I want you all to think about is, how do we live together? How do we live together in this great big cosmos, this moving system, right? Of systems, right? It's a system and there's system within the systems, okay? Let me see if I've gotten to this next part. Ooh. Okay, there we go. All right. So any system that you are in has an order to it. The order is what the system teaches you, okay? Now, for a lot of us, we talk about systems and teaching. Now we're getting into like, your education, right? Your formal, your younger education, your K-12 education type of thing, right? There are a variety of things to learn. In school, we simply call these subjects. In the professional arena, they're known as disciplines. These include your math, your science, history, literature, English, things of those natures, things of that nature. When you like any particular subject, you study a lot, and you pick a job doing that thing, you have found a profession. Now, a little known truth is that everything you study is a matter of faith. And Festus, if you can, I want to turn this one over to you real quick, because I got a question there. What does that mean when you say everything you study is a matter of faith? What does that mean?
Okay, so we'll kind of parse that out, right? So if you think about it, or when you think about it, study is the act of learning, right? And because we as human beings naturally do not have and possess all knowledge, when we are learning anything, we are acting on faith or trust that what we're learning is accurate, right? Because if you look later down the line, there's something else you could learn, right, that can prove what you have learned wrong. So the thing is, there's a certain amount of trust or faith that you have to put into what I have learned is accurate for now, right? And so that's why everything we study tends to be a matter of faith, is because we tend to believe it for now based off of what we know. And it's kind of, back when I was in school too, working with kids, especially I was in intermediate school. And so they kind of thought they knew the world and how it worked and how everything worked. And some of them were actually like pretty spot on. It was like, dude, you're ahead of your time. You know what I'm saying? You're getting this thing. You're going to be okay. You know what I'm saying? Or as the old folks used to say, you done been here before, baby. So anyway, so you look at those kids, right? And then you know that there's something else that's going to come up later on that's going to challenge what they have known. So that's why everything is a matter of faith. It's what you choose to believe at that time. And even if you look at your actions are simply a display of what you believe the most in that moment. Now, we can't read other people's, right? But we can read people's actions. And so if somebody's punching you in the face, like, I love you, man. I love you. I'm doing this because I love you. Your actions do not speak love, they speak anger, right? So right now, even though you might have a love for me, you're very angry right now. And so the thing is, I know that some people will sound overly simplistic, some people will sound overly complicated, but the thing is, the two things can be true, but not congruent. They can't run at the same time. I love you and I'm beating you. Something's winning out. Something is, right? So even when it's like, okay, I've learned, 1 + 1 is 2, and I've learned addition and multiplication are true at the same time, right? And as they're true at the same time, what am I learning and applying? What am I putting my faith in? What am I putting my action in at that time? So I hope that's a really clear explanation.
No. I think that's wonderful. I think you're spot on. I think one of the greatest tests, especially for young people, is to take the things that their parents have learned, the things that their parents have taught them, the things that their friends have taught them, the things that they have pulled in from data collection, right? Because that's all we're doing. When we wake up in the morning and we move and we operate, we're simply just collecting data and information, right? Sometimes it's right in front of us from a teacher. Sometimes it's from experiences, right? Lessons learned. And we take that information and it helps us become the type of people that we are. One of the greatest tests is to take those things and to now practice them, apply them to your life, and see what happens. One of the key principles that Festus talks about in the book is be a friend and make friends. And it's so simple and it makes so much sense. Be a friend to make friends. So just think about all the qualities you want in a good friend and be that. I hate to say and be that, and do those things, right? You'd be very surprised, the type of people that you're able to attract in doing those things. So, absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Festus.
Stuff.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about is America. Is America. In America, the country that we're in, it's often said that there is a separation of church and state. What does this mean? What exactly does this mean? Festus, this right here is diamond level knowledge right here. This right here is I think back in the day we would have said, this is sick, man. You remember we used to say that? This is sick.
That's sick.
In retrospect, I'm like, man, no, it's actually very healthy. In America, the country that we're in, it's often said that there's a separation of church and state. What exactly does that mean? Because that's something that was, even for me, when I was in high school, quite foreign, right? Separation of church and state. You mean state like state of Texas? What exactly do you mean, right? So what that means is, it means that any religion cannot or should not control the government. It also means that the government cannot or should not endorse or enforce any particular religion on the people. This is very interesting, folks, because people practice religion. Religion does not practice people. People practice religion. But guess what we talked about earlier on? We talked about the fact that we took our system of democracy, which is to rule of the people, from the Greeks. If you look at the Republic, Festus, I'm sure you can give me a little bit more input on that. But when I look at Republic, I see the word public. So I'm thinking people have a large part to do with the idea of the Republic. This is all people, right? So the thoughts or the beliefs about your career, your family life, and other affiliations must be embodied by you acting them out. They must be embodied by you acting those things out. And it kind of goes back to what you just mentioned there about everything you study is a matter of faith, right? Everything that you put in is a matter of faith. Those actions, all the actions that you show, are going to be based off of that faith. So how are you able to take the things that you've learned, right? And how do you practice those things? Because it's obviously something that said there's a separation, but what do you do if you're put in a position, and it doesn't necessarily have to be as far as church and state. It could just be like a student just dealing with, pressure from whatever situation.
This is really powerful. Are you going to explain, or you're kind of asking, or kind of alluding?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm asking.
Okay, because this is really powerful. And so the thing is, it goes back to developing those values, and this is why we recommend the 3 values of humility, discipline, and integrity. So if you're humble, you realize you do not know everything, and that you're learning things. Right? Because there's a lot of people right now who are currently in conflict, emotional conflict, psychological conflict, spiritual conflict, because the infrastructure of our society, a lot of it is being shaken right now. And the thing is, because they trust in those things and identify those things more than they know themselves, they start to have an identity conflict, right? And this is where, like, you'll see it now, the term is deconstruct your faith, deconstruct education, deconstruct this, deconstruct that. Okay, but the thing is, this is why as students, we're so big on constructing first. It was Frederick Douglass who said, it's easier to build strong children than to fix broken men, right? And so the thing is, so often, unfortunately, and this is why we do this free mentoring, right? Is because we want it open to any student who wants to join. But let's go back to the original point, is that if I have humility, I know that I'm always learning. If I have discipline, I do not forsake what I'm learning just because. If I have integrity, right, then as my beliefs are challenged, I accept what is true, while letting go of what's not, right? And so this is why we recommend those 3 values. And see, the thing is, you read that book and you're like, no, that book is only just a couple pages, but it got some power in it, right? Okay, right? Because why? Because we try to synthesize as much of this as possible. But this is the thing. If you have those 3 values, and maybe you don't have a value system and you're trying to develop your own value system, this is why we recommend those things. Because why? Again, there's certain things. I'm relatively young. I'm 36. Some people say you old. You old as Methuselah, right? But it depends on perspective, right? So I look at myself and I'm young. Okay, I'm just getting started. But I've lived a lot of life in my short time on this earth. But long story short, the things that I thought I knew about personal finance, a certain religion, certain things, certain that are challenged literally every day. And so because of that, I stay disciplined in who I am and what I believe and what I agree with. Okay. But as a form of integrity, I do not hold things that are no longer true, no longer right, no longer valid, especially once I've done the study for myself. Right? I don't rely on, oh, this person said this and now I'm just doing this. Why? Because that person don't have to live my life. They don't have to. This is the thing, okay? I'm about to rant, okay? I'm about to get on a rant. Look, if they don't have to deal with the consequences of what they're telling you, then guess what? Their opinion, I can't get my fingers any closer together without touching, okay? Because it's ridiculous now. You got all these internet gurus, this person and that person, they don't have to deal with the consequences of what they're telling you. And this is the thing, and we talk about this in the book, ignorance is bliss only because you don't know what's hurting you. And the thing is, there's so many people right now who's hurting. There's so many students who are right now, they're challenged, but they don't get it. Why don't they get it? Because they're listening to somebody who has no vested interest in what's going on in their life. So they don't feel the impact. They just say, yo, send me the $39.99 for the course, the ebook, whatever, what have you. Hey, I'm gonna just say it like this. LYS, we ain't here for that, okay? We're here to give true, straight, unlimited get back. End of rant, I'm done. Olay, back to you, sorry.
I'm gonna tell you like this, I couldn't find any other better way to end it off on a note just like that. No better way to end it off on a note just like that. I mean, folks, I mean, it's as true as the day is in the morning, right? I mean, that's the key right there. I mean, if that person is not able to deal with the consequences of whatever it is they're telling you, you may want to adjust to where you're getting that information from, right? I think one of the most important things I saw or I read when I read LYS was, especially in the social portion, was about finding people, and you'll know it, right? I'll just say this. One of the best things I found out about the book is you can't choose your family. You cannot choose your family, but you can choose your friends. So choose wisely. Choose wisely, for sure, man. I want to do it this time. I think I got it. Folks, there are legitimate reasons for not going to college. There are no legitimate reasons for not getting an education. Folks, I am Olay. Here with Festus, we had another wonderful, great online student mentoring session. Festus, I'm gonna try. We gotta get some kids on here, man. We gotta get some.
We definitely do. And so, look, you guys, if you're watching this right now, number one, you guys can help us. Okay, help us by sharing. We're here every Sunday, 2:00. Okay, you can register on Eventbrite. Okay, just search Laddering Your Success on Eventbrite, and you can join us. Obviously, you're probably watching this. You're watching on Facebook Live, so you join us on Facebook Live. Sometimes we won't see your comments and stuff on Facebook Live. I try to monitor both while Olay's doing his thing, right? And so yeah, but yeah, y'all could come join us, and we're gonna be sending out some invites. So look, if we hop up in your DM or you see an email or a text message from me or Olay, you better answer. Okay, you better open that thing up.
Hey, don't make us find you. Awesome.
But yeah, thanks so much, Olay, for hosting this and just executing on it again and again. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. It's fun. I mean, hey man, we're literally living out LYS. So I mean, it's the greatest joy to do it, especially when you get to impact young people's lives. And so we're gonna definitely get some young people on here, have some conversations, because it's one thing for us to talk about it, but we gotta be able to take what we're talking about and actually practice it and then come back and see how it works, right? Because it works, trust me, for sure. All right, folks, y'all have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful Martin Luther King Jr. Day tomorrow. Have fun, do some thinking. Just, watch a YouTube video of Martin Luther King Jr. You can watch I Have a Dream speech, any of his speeches, find out one important fact about him, because there's a reason why we have a day named after him, all right? All right, so folks, y'all be blessed. We'll see y'all next week. Take care now.
All right, y'all be blessed.
Oh, You still there? Well, thank you so much for listening to the LYS podcast.